everyone, my name's Miranda, and today I am here to do my January book wrap-up, aka the first book wrap-up of the new year. And this month was a little crazy, a little busy, and I was also in sort of a reading slump at the beginning, so I didn't get to read as many books as I would have liked to, but I still read a good few, and I am now here to share them with all of you. First up this month, I read Lumberjanes Volume 2, which is a graphic novel about a group of girls at this summer camp, but it's not just any summer camp. It has monsters and demigods and mysteries and conspiracies and curses, and I am really loving this series so far. I believe only the first 2 volumes are out, and the 3rd volume is coming out later, but I mean, Volume 2 was amazing, and I mean, the first book was amazing, but like Volume 2 was even better in my opinion. It just had so much wit and puns and friendship and girl power, and I absolutely love it. It's by I don't know if it's the author or the illustrator, but it's by someone who was involved in Nimona, so if you like Nimona, you should definitely check out this series because it's so cute, it's so girl power, and I absolutely love it. After that, I got to read a arc of Lois Lane Double Down, which is the 2nd book in the Lois Lane Fallout series by Gwenda Bond, and Fallout was one of my favorite books of 2015, so I was so excited that I got to read this book early, and it definitely did not disappoint. It was just as good as the first book, and I was worried that after being away from the series so long, I wouldn't like it as much because it's definitely not your typical YA book, and I was happy to find out that I was wrong, though. That book was amazing, the mystery was amazing, the characters were amazing, and it was so great seeing Lois back in action. And I have a whole spoiler-free book talk on it if you want to hear more about it, so I'll leave that down in the description box below, and definitely make sure you check that book out when it comes out in May if you liked Fallout, because you definitely will like this one, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. After that, I read Passenger by Alexander Bracken, and this actually ended up being my first purchase, I believe, my first book purchase of the new year because it was so good. Alexander Bracken, I didn't like Darkest Minds. I actually hated Darkest Minds, but I could remove myself from the hatred because I hated the plot points and the characters to see that she was actually still a really good writer. So I decided to check this book out. It's about time travel, and I was very interested, but I wasn't that expecting too much out of it, if that makes sense. Boy, was I freaking wrong, because this book, she took everything I hated in Darkest Minds and she listened to her critics, she listened to people who I think complain, and she built such an amazing world and such amazing characters. Etna, the main character, is so strong and so badass, and I love her. She is absolutely one of my favorite characters, and to think that this is the same lady who wrote Ruby, Dolly, Dale, whatever. I think these 2 characters came from the same author blows my mind. Etta is just amazing. I love her so much, and I'm probably not pronouncing her name right, so I apologize. This is just an amazing book. It's so big, which is nice because you got to read more of the story, and I definitely enjoyed it, and I definitely recommend it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It's so good. It's absolutely one of my new favorites, and I can't wait for the next book. So fingers crossed that I find an arc of it somewhere, because I don't know how I'm going to survive a year not knowing what happens next. After that, weirdly enough, I read 2 books on my iPad, which is weird because I don't really like reading ebooks, but these books were ones that I could only find online. First up, we have Inferno by Catherine Doyle, which is the 2nd book in the Vendetta Blood for Blood series, and if you know anything, you know that Vendetta is one of my top favorite books ever, and it was my favorite book of 2016, so I was definitely very excited to get my hands on Inferno, and that was why I read it on an ebook, because that's the only place I could find it. And I have to say, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't as good as the first book, and I don't know if my expectations were just making the book worse than it was out to be, but it wasn't as good as the first book, and because I was anticipating it to be so good, that made it seem so much worse than it probably was. I still ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. It was just, there were moments that I was like, Sophie, you're being an idiot. And what I loved about her in the first book was yes, she made rash decisions, but they always had some kind of logic behind them, where I could be yeah, I get that you're making a stupid decision, but I get where your heart is, and I would probably make the same decision. In this book, she made decisions where I'm just no, this, you could explain this in a 50-page essay, and it would not make any freaking sense to me why you're doing this. And I mean, we got introduced to a lot more information that was just kind of thrown at us all of a sudden, and then it involved plot twists and everything that you were just oh, okay, this is kind of a cool plot twist, but we literally just found out that this existed 5 pages ago, so the payoff wasn't as great. as it would have been had we been introduced to some of the stuff maybe in the first book instead of it all just being like thrown at us in this book. But I mean, we did get more Sophie and Luca interaction, which I absolutely loved. And I have to say the love triangle, even though I didn't like the love triangle, I definitely liked the way it was set up. It felt very genuine and authentic. Really, really appreciated that. And like I said, I did end up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. And finally this month, I read The Dead List by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which is actually a book that she published for free on Wattpad, whatever. I can never pronounce that thing, but whatever. You can go read it if you want. It's completely free. I read it in one night because it was 24 chapters and I was just like, let's just get through this. And I have to say, it just wasn't as good as I was expecting it to be. Jennifer L. Armentrout wrote one of my favorite mystery books, which is Don't Look Back, and that's such a good thriller, such a good mystery, and this, The Dead List, was supposed to be like in the vein of Scream, but when she says in the vein, she means like freaking exactly like Scream for most parts, because I was like, okay, I can get like, okay, it's supposed to be like this, but if you're just like copying like verbatim the feel of Scream, then I don't think you did like an original idea. Just, I don't know, like to me it was very cliche, and I just like thrillers that kind of break away from the norm, because even when there are like outrageous twists and plot twists, like that's not really crazy, because that's what most thrillers are, and that's definitely what Scream was. So the book to me, it was just, I don't know, it was typical Jennifer L. Armentrout, which is that she has a very distinct writing style that I'm starting to see now, in like hot guy, girl who's sassy, problems, they all figure it out with their love, like stuff like that. But I mean, it was easy to figure out who the killer was. There was like one good plot twist where it wasn't even like surprising, it was just kind of like, oh, that's, yeah, I could see that happening. I just think overall, I mean, it wasn't that great, and I was expecting a lot more because she had written such a fantastic thriller book in Don't Look Back. So I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars just because it wasn't bad. It didn't scare me or make me feel anything or anything. Like, I like to be scared. I like to be on the edge of my seat when I read a thriller book, not bored and feeling like I've read this and seen this a million times before. So there you have it. Those are all the books I read in the month of January. I read about 5, I think that comes out to. Oh no, now it's going to be math. And I have a reading goal set for 50 books, yeah, on Goodreads. So I'm about a 10th of the way through, and we're definitely going to have some more books coming out in February, so hopefully I'll have some time to read those, because there are definitely a lot more books that I'm looking forward to coming out. That is about going to do it for my wrap-up. Please feel free to leave any of the books you read down in January, if you liked them, if you hated them. Also, if you read any of these books, leave your opinions on those down below. And also make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and want to see all sorts of new videos. Subscribe to my channel down below to be told to make all sorts of new videos, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!